Welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Candidates. We are here with Sarah Carda today, who is running as an incumbent for the Yankton School District School Board. Thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
As a reminder to everyone, the municipal and school board election is Tuesday, April 8th. So we encourage everyone to go out and vote early or vote actually on April 8th. So let's go ahead and get started here today, Sarah. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewing audience?
All right, well, I'm Sarah Carda. My husband is Dave Carda. You might recognize his name. He's serving right now on the city commission. He took a little break, but he was on there for quite a few years too. So we both like to get pretty engaged in the community. In a former life, I used to be a vice president and dean for student affairs at Mount Marty, and I am semi-retired right now. I do work very part-time for Yankton Thrive, where I get to work with different businesses, just kind of telling them about the benefits of being a member. I have been on the school board, I think 12 years, so this is my next term. So I've had quite a bit of experience being on the school board.
So what sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, no question, it is that experience. I've been on here for 12 years, and sometimes experience is good and sometimes experience is not so good. But in our case, we really have, we're going to have majority of our board members being relatively new, and especially with the opportunity that there's 2 seats open. So I think my experience and just understanding of education, my entire career has been in some sort of education. And so I do have a passion for that. I also think that I have, through being in the school board, I've really gotten to understand and appreciate the idea of representation and what we're doing, as far as we don't come in with just our personal views and our personal issues, that we really have to be really aware of what we're doing, that we're obligated to the taxpayer, and what we're doing for the community as a whole.
Do you have kids in the school district right now?
I don't have kids in the school district, and now they're all proud graduates. I did have an opportunity to give each one of them their diplomas on stage, but I do have a granddaughter who I'm very close to that will be in first grade next year.
So in your opinion, what is the role of a school board member?
Well, I think the role of the school board member is to provide policy and direction. We have to be the fiduciary responsibility, that we have to make sure that we're doing the best with the taxpayers' money that we possibly have. I don't think oftentimes people who want to be in positions think, well, I'm going to get this and this and this done. And that's not really necessarily the role. You absolutely provide a vision. You absolutely have a great working relationship with the superintendent and the rest of the administration. But it's important that you are there as a representative, and you don't get what we call too much in the weeds, dealing with the day-to-day minutia. It really can muck up the system. It can take away from the more important things that the administration is doing, but you absolutely have to maintain a good relationship with, especially, like I said, the superintendent, the administration, an overview, evaluation, all those kind of things. Luckily, we have a great superintendent and administration, so that makes the job as a school board meeting. We also need to be open to listening to what are the issues, and sometimes that's difficult. Because people want us to solve a certain issues, but there's ways that we go about when we hear. But I think it's important to listen and then carry on that information and to make sure that it is being addressed.
Do you have a lot of people who reach out to you?
I actually do. I think even before I was a school board member, I had a lot of people reach out to me, I would say, especially about special education issues, because we were a part of that. Honestly, sometimes I'm disappointed with the lack of people reaching out, but I do get a lot of reaching out. When I was thinking about this interview, I have to be honest, there are times that people reach out and you have to tell them where to go within the system. But the vast majority of it is really people being appreciative of just that you're willing to serve, that you're willing to listen, and you're willing to take on this role that oftentimes people don't understand, and people can be very critical of.
So what are your thoughts on the strategic plan for the Yankton School District facilities, which includes the addition of Trailhead Learning Center and the decommissioning of Webster School?
Well, I'll just talk about strategic planning first. Is that it's probably one of the things I have the greatest pride in the district. It's and it is one of the not one of the it is the best example I've ever seen of strategic planning, no question. They do it the right way. They solicit input from the public, they gather together communities, they spend time working out the issues and making what other priorities are, and then they work that plan. And it's not transparent. I mean, it is transparent, excuse me, completely the opposite. It is transparent. You'll see, if you watch or if you attend any of the school board meetings, you'll regularly see updates on each one of the points of the strategic plan. So none of it is in the dark. Everybody should know the direction that the school district is moving. I've been a part of a lot of strategic plannings, and some of them are very good and the process is good, but then it kind of sits on the shelf and people lose sight of it. And I can honestly say I do not see the district losing sight. So the Trailhead Learning Center, absolutely phenomenal. I'm so proud of this project. I've had a couple of chances to go tour it. I was a part of some of the initial meetings, not all of them. Some other school board members took over that. A tremendous amount of time was spent by community members and staff members and administrations working this out. And I'm so excited for the public to get to see it, because I think you'll just be absolutely blown away with what they've done. And probably the thing I'm most proud about is how much time and energy they've spent researching the right ways to effectively teach and kind of the cutting edge ways of teaching. I just took a tour there, and she said, "I'll go sit in one of those chairs." Each one of those little chairs rocks this way and rocks that way and that way and that way. So all the kids can work out energy and still be good learners. Just the little details that you'll find are absolutely amazing. Down to the steps and where the dry erase boards are. And I just can't explain enough about how excited I am about that. Now, that didn't happen without a lot of vision about what we wanted to do and what we wanted to prioritize. And I'm really proud that we prioritize focusing on our youngest of learners, because there's no doubt that the earlier you're educated, it levels the playing field. They're better prepared for first grade, kindergarten, and those numbers and that efficiency shows throughout. So I'm really, really proud of what they're doing. But that didn't come without really thinking about what we currently have. And Webster was in a lot of need, and it wasn't the same as the other buildings. And we have some buildings we have to take a long look at. And you mentioned Beetle, and that's probably one of the big things. And there's going to be a lot of, it's a great school, lots of great alumni come from Beetle, a lot of proud alumni. But we do have to address a lot of some substantial issues in Beetle. I can just say there's probably 5 different levels, hard to difficult, navigate with ADA standards, more and more hard when things fail to replace them. And so it becomes really a cost issue on what we're going to do. It's not just a cosmetic issue, it's what we're going to do. But there are plans for that as far as that and I am supportive of those plans. What we need to do to update our buildings, it really comes down to cost efficiency and what we're doing. And again, just an example of how we're trying to do the best with the taxpayers' money.
So with all the potential changes at the national and state level with the departments of education, what should Yankton be doing to prepare?
Well, luckily, I think that we have a great administration who's on top of it on some of these issues. I really believe that public school is under attack. I really do, that a lot of people are really struggling with it. And it's really a war over ideologies. And it ends up kind of being fought in the classrooms. And I think that's really unfortunate for our kids. I think we have to make sure that we are always trying to maintain the best educational standards, that we can keep to the budgeting that was promised as far as the yearly budgets towards that and what we can predict. We can't plan for the future if what we're giving yearly is unpredictable. And we went through a lot of work with the legislators in years past to try to make that as predictable as possible. And that always hasn't been the case. And I understand it's difficult because the majority of the state's budget does go to education, but it's just so extremely important and a constitutional right. So I think we always need to be on the cusp of what the issues are coming, being able to get our voices heard when that's necessary. If we have to, going to the state level. I mean, mainly we work with the state level issues. We've had some really good representation in the past that's worked with us, and we hope to maintain that in the future.
And just so the viewers know, we are recording this on February 14th. The legislature is in session, so there might be other provoking topics that come up between now and the end of session that maybe Sarah has not addressed because she's not aware of what they're going to happen.
Sure.
So I just want to put that in perspective for the viewing audience. So what are some of the budgeting priorities for the Yankton School District to set up the district for that long-term success?
I think it's understanding all the funding sources and how you work with them. The financial, I don't want to say planner, but the manager or whatever in the school district is so incredibly important. There's so many boxes, there's so many moving parts as far as what the funding sources go for present, future, and how that is. And there's so many limitations on whatever of those budget for, and someone really has to be on top of that to help us predict, again, the future. They do an exceptional job of predicting the future. The school board members, we always know kind of a 1-year plan, 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 15-year plan. These things are well thought out. There's often surprises year to year, but generally we know the direction we're going. We know when we can take risks as far as capital. So I would say keeping up with that. I believe our budgeting priorities should always be trying to recruit and retain the best educators possible and administrators. Less and less people are going into the field for whatever reason. We're finding more people retiring early and out of the field. So the pool is definitely becoming smaller. Yankton's been really fortunate to be able to recruit and retain good teachers. We don't retain them at all costs. We definitely have high standards, and if they're not meeting the high standards, then that we have to address that, no question about that. But it does show up, and when we have positions open, how many people are applying for them versus now versus the past. So we always need to maintain that and make sure that we are adequately funding so we can maintain what we have. But then also budgeting for the future, for the physical plan, anything we may need to do with that. Keeping up with grants. We've had some great examples of working with like propane buses that have been real cost effective in many ways. For an example, I would also say to maintain our commitment to curriculum instruction and technology integration. We've done a lot as far as hiring and prioritizing those positions. They're really backdoor positions that you don't see, but they have a huge impact with the teachers and learning.
How about career and technical ed as far as budgeting for that? And I know that sometimes there have been challenges hiring teachers who are trained in that area as well.
Absolutely. Those positions, some of the science positions, they are getting harder and harder to recruit. I think I could just tell you what's happened in our district if they've been really creative about how they're managing some of those positions, and some people who have gotten, endorsed in those areas that may have been different areas, and it's kind of their passion and they've done it. So we've been able to maintain, but it's incredibly hard if we would lose some of the people that we have, especially with Yankton really leads the state in what we're doing with career and tech and how we're working with the community as far as creating the workforce. It'd be hard to find that replicated in many other communities, and that all partnerships.
So at the state legislature this year, educational saving accounts were proposed. Do you support ESAs, and why or why not?
I do not support them. And this is honestly a very difficult personal decision. Because it seems like a public-private issue, and to me it's not. I made a faith choice, put my kids into the Catholic school, and I'm forever grateful for the kind of teaching and experience we had for that. I thought that was amazing. But when you look at it from a representation level, if you go do the research on it, there's been any time it's gone up for the people to vote, it's never passed. And that's why that these things are sort of insidious with things within the government as far as how you place them in the budgets. And typically, they don't necessarily help the less wealthy people, to be quite honest with you. And they come across as really benign things like school choice. Who doesn't want school choice? We all want school choice, but it's much deeper than that. And it has some pretty significant financial implications, and especially when we're not funding at the level for the school districts that was promised, to be honest, and we're funding other things. I think we have to be careful of that. There's a couple, let's see, I had a couple other reasons why. The other reasons I would say is it flies in the face of taxation without representation, because a lot of these programs, they don't necessarily have any place to be accountable to. And so we're actually just giving money to these agencies or families, quite frankly, without any real accountability, don't need testing, those kind of things. So I think we all need to be accountable for the education of our children.
So are there any state tax dollars that should be allocated to homeschooling families or people utilizing alternative education options? Because there was just a bill in the legislature talking about maybe a reduction of property tax. Is there any place for that?
I don't know. I don't personally agree with that, to be honest with you. I think when you're really talking about I had heard it just from a local official here that was talking about that this is a really good thing because it helps these families, lower incomes, that helps them get a school choice that may be in a private. And really, you have to assume once that they're homeowners, and then it just adds a lot of intricacy to how we'd go about taxation. And the other reason I do believe, I don't agree with it, is I do think it's a community responsibility to make sure that we have a strong educational system. It's not just for that particular student. It's not just because I have a student there that's important to me. It's a community obligation. And so, again, when these measures are put before the people, they fail. Again and again and again. So I do think that you have to deal with the will of the people, and I don't think the will of the people generally support those kind of initiatives.
So partnerships and collaboration with other entities are critically important. Can you tell us what you would do to help strengthen existing relationships or grow new ones?
I would just maintain the support we have right now. We have some incredible community partnerships that we're already doing. Not just Dr. Kindle being involved with stuff, but the administration and our teachers and just community partnerships. Just some of the big ones are our Boys and Girls Club, just an amazing opportunity that we were able to kind of seamlessly take the child through early mornings till after work and give them some really enriched environments in which to be. I can think of the most recent one I can think of was there was some discussion and a little bit of alarm that if ICE ever came and did raids on some of our locals, what would we do with those children that were in the school district, and how are we able to prepare ourselves for that? And the truth is, there already are standards and procedures that go about it, but we got together with the sheriff and the local police and child protection services and our mental health services and really reiterated those plans of what would happen. And to me, that's just a great example of just being able to deal with an issue when it arises and be able to do with it well. Again, focusing on the child and their safety, and that's really important.
So in your opinion, what is needed in the Yankton School District to provide children with the best educational opportunities?
Well, like I've said before, I think we have to maintain a teaching staff that knows their area, critically thinks, has a rigorous curriculum that prepares our kids to go out and go to higher education or go into the workforce or go into a trade school or however we're doing it, the best needs of the community and the state. That's really important, and that has a lot to do with everything we sort of talked about earlier. I think we need a strong parental commitment to the kids going to school. You often hear about these parents aren't aren't involved at all. But if you really look at our numbers about how many of our parents attend our parent teachers conferences, you'd be really pleasantly surprised. Some schools some areas of the town are better than others, but for the most part, that's what we need. We need people invested beyond the classroom, and parents are just absolutely integral, the most important in that. And I know we also need communication. I think that's really important. We just introduced a new app. It's called Peach Jar. We just spoke about it at the last school board meeting, and it's a way to communicate with parents. And I'm sure all parents know this, that you see that little strip of paper that's in the bottom of the backpack that gets lost and doesn't get home. Well, this is going to eliminate that. It's an app that will tell you what is going on in your classroom or whatever to make things really easy. So a simple thing, but really important, and that was one of our strategic plans, to be as communicative as possible. And then also, again, we need to be able to think forward about what's important, do the hard work, do the research, but also be able to be agile to deal with the pressing issues.
So do you have anything you want to say to the viewing audience that was not a part of a previously asked question?
I guess I just want to say that, I'm really honored to be able to serve on the school board. It's been an honor, and for the most part, an incredibly positive experience. One of the reasons why it's been so positive is I don't know if people can appreciate what a real jewel our school system is in the state. And Dr. Kindle, as superintendent, is called upon throughout the state to address these issues because he carries so much respect. And I just know him personally, that he cares about all the children and the outcomes and just the child itself, and made an incredible administration team that has a great deal of experience but also opens up for new blood. That is what's important as a school member, that's maintained. And the more we muck up issues, the less we allow them to do their good work, and so that's really important. And I just think I see the test scores, I see the outcomes. We're really doing a great job in Yankton, and there's always things we can do better, and there's always issues that we can focus on. But for the most part, I think we just acknowledge that we're doing a lot of great things and doing a lot of things right.
Well, from listening to you today, it sounds like you feel that Yankton is focusing on the right priorities to keep the district moving forward. And I wanted to thank you for coming in here for this interview today, and thank you for your previous years of serving on the school board. And once again, to the viewers, April 8th is the day to go and vote. So thank you very much.
Thank you.